William Penn once said, "Time is what we want the most, but what we use the worst." February is not just about Valentine's Day, it's actually National Time Management Month. And if you're drowning in deadlines while your creative work suffers, this episode might just save your sanity. So let's get into it.
Taking creatives from chaos to clarity.
Welcome back to Creativity Made Easy. This is the podcast for creative professionals who want to scale their work without losing their minds. I'm Dustin Pete, and I help creative agencies build systems that create margin, reduce burnout, and protect what matters most, which is your creativity. So whether you're a solo creative or you're leading a team or a department, this show is going to give you some practical frameworks to go from chaos to clarity. So let's dive in. So according to a McKinsey study, the average professional spends 28% of their work week managing email alone. 28%, that's over a quarter of your week. So for creatives juggling multiple clients and projects, that number can often climb even higher than that. Furthermore, research from Rescue Time found that the average knowledge worker is productive for only 2 hours and 53 minutes per day. So that begs the question, what about the rest, right? It's lost to context switching, unplanned interruptions, and what we call reactive mode. There was also a study by the Dragum Group that discovered the most productive people work in focused 52-minute intervals, followed by 17-minute breaks, the classic 52-17 rule. I just made that up. But most creatives work in fragmented chunks dictated by client demands, not by their optimal energy. Did you know that creatives lose an average of 20 hours per month to poor time management, according to the industry research? That's half a work week every single month, where you could be doing your best creative work instead of fighting fires. And lastly, there was a survey by the Creative Group that found that 68% of creative professionals report feeling overwhelmed by their workload. And yet when they tracked that workload, most of them discovered significant time being consumed by tasks that don't even move their business forward. What does all this mean? What does all these statistics and studies mean? Here's what I want you to walk away with today. I want you to understand that the way most creatives manage time is actively sabotaging their best creative work. And it doesn't have to be this way. You can take back your time. I love the way Charles Buxton says it. He says that you'll never find time for anything. If you want time, you must take it. And so I want to give you just a few tips today on how to take back your time. And so I want to give you just a few tips today on how to take back your time as a creative professional. Number one, this is the cornerstone framework that we teach to all of our clients and anyone that we coach or anyone that we're strategizing with. It is the mind shift of thinking. So first thing you're going to shift is you're going to shift your thinking, and you're going to do that by shifting away from thinking about things in due dates, DUE, and instead think about things and your tasks and your projects in due dates, DO dates. You see, when we focus on DUE dates, we wait too late to actually get it DONE, and then it's already gone. We've lost all of our margin, and something happens and something comes in. But if we can focus in on the DO dates, then we can assign that DO date a few days out or a few good space-time margin chunks out. We can space that out from the DUE date. And now when something comes and inevitably fills that gap, then it's not all of a sudden late. It's not right, because we focused on the DO dates, not the DUE dates. So when you're planning out your week, I want you to think about due dates versus due dates. And I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing. DO dates versus DUE dates. So number one, shift your thinking. Number two, I want you to shift your availability. There's a church that I worked for in Maryland, and I got to lead an amazing creative team. Everybody on it was absolutely incredible. So incredible, in fact, that many of the staff outside of our department were constantly coming and interrupting and asking us to do things. And so, what I finally learned is that we're not getting anything done because we're constantly in reactive mode. We're not in proactive mode. And so, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of just give me one little time. I asked the staff, can you give us one little window of time, one little 90-minute window of time throughout the entire week where we're not interrupted? And so we just called it our no-fly zone, right? It's no fly. There's different areas of the United States where planes can't fly over for different restriction reasons. We're asking for 90 minutes. Don't fly over or don't fly into our office and ask us for something. And so there are going to be times that are going to ebb and flow in and out of your career, in and out of your business strategy, where you're going to need to block off some no flyover zones. For example, in my calendar, I try not to we try really hard not to put meetings on my calendar before 11 a.m. because 11 a.m. is or 7 to 11 a.m. is some of my highest mental energy focus. And I need that time to focus on getting the big three or the big tasks done that are going to take the most amount of my brain energy. So shift your availability. You don't have to be available every hour of every day, 7 days a week. Find some small windows of time throughout. When are you your sharpest? Protect that time at all costs. Number 3, we talked about this in last week's episode, but I want to re-emphasize again, shift your expectations. And the way I want you to do that is through a time and energy audit, right? You're going to track your time because you can't fix what you don't understand. And so for 2 weeks, you're going to track your time as to what you did and what value it brought, and did it give you energy or take away energy. And so when you're done with that, you can step back and look at that for what it is, and you can see everything in black and white or in color, and you can understand, oh, I actually am spending way too much time doing these types of tasks, and it's actually draining my energy. And no wonder I feel like, is the week over yet by the time I get to Wednesday? And so anytime we can track the real factual evidence and data, we can track that time, we can begin to actually solve the problem of our time management, because we can't fix what we don't understand. So shift your thinking with the do versus due dates. I want you to shift your availability with some no-fly zones on your calendar. I want you to shift your expectations with a time and energy audit, which you can download a free time and energy audit template on my website, and there's a little video there to show you how to use it. Go to dustinp.com/time. Fourth thing I want you to do is I want you to shift your focus. Shift your focus. So many times as creatives, we spend lots and lots of our time throughout the week context switching. And what I mean by context switching is you wrap up this type of task for this type of project, and then the next thing on your list says, all right, now we have to design these thumbnails for this type of project, or now we have to edit this first draft for this type of project. And so immediately our minds are having to switch from the thumbnail thing to the edit thing, and we're switching context, right? And if we don't have proper notes there for us in the new thing that we're switching to, then we're going to lose time context switching. I've talked about this many times on the podcast before, and our method at Chief Creative Consultants is what we call to keep this from happening and to reduce that context switching time, is what we call the future you methodology. It's a note-taking methodology. So go back to that thing that you were finishing up for a second. If you're going to have to come back to that at some point, right? If it's not the final task and the final deliverable and see you later, if it's not that and you're going to have to come back to it, and there's another task on your list that's similar with that project or that falls in line chronologically with that project, go ahead and go to the next task that's chronologically on your list to do. Spend 30 seconds just typing in the description of that task. Here's where I left off. Here's some of the notes that I was getting back from the client. Here's where we're going to go next on this thing when we pick it back up again. You leave it on that task, and then you go over to your next task. And your next task, you won't have to think as much about what to do there, because past you did the same thing for that task. And you pull up the task and it says, oh, Today we're designing 3 thumbnails for this project. And you look at the description real quick and you read a little 30-second overview that past you wrote in those notes. And now you're like, thank you. That past me set up future me for success. And I know exactly what I need to do in 30 seconds or less without having to spend minutes and minutes and minutes that add up to hours and hours and hours of my time context switching. So shift your focus by using the future you note-taking methodology. I have all that documented for you at dustinpeed.com/free. Go check that out.
Hey, I wanted to interrupt this episode to tell you something. You know, most creative consultants hand you a strategy document and they wish you luck. We do things differently at Chief Creative Consultants. We work with you as your fractional COO team. So we implement alongside your creative agency, not from the sidelines. So think do versus do framework, custom project management systems, and team workflows that actually stick. We're talking 10 to 15 plus hours recovered every week, eliminated deadline panic, and creative teams that know exactly what to do. So if your agency is scaling but your operations are stuck, let's fix that together. Head on over to dustinpeed.com to schedule a discovery call today. Okay, now let's get back to the show.
All right, so we're shifting our thinking, shifting our availability, we're shifting our expectations, and so far we've shifted our focus with the future you note-taking methodology. The fifth and final thing I'm going to ask you to shift is your energy. And the way I want you to do this is I want you to start looking at different chunks of time, half days or full days, and I want you to start to plan out, and I change this quarterly, start to plan out what the theme or the focus the type of work that you're gonna, some people call it like task batching, right? What type of tasks am I gonna do on this day? So you might have Monday where it's full of meetings. That's probably gonna be a meeting day. A Tuesday might be more for being on set with your clients in a shoot or a design meeting, right? And then Wednesdays, they might be more for editing. Thursdays may be more for strategy, and Fridays may be more for how to move your business forward. If you can theme your days, then they can be used as guardrails that protect your energy throughout the day, because every time we want to sidetrack around, we go, nope, today is Monday, it's meeting day. I don't have to do that today. I have a whole nother day designed for that. Nope, today's Thursday, and I know what Thursday is about, and it's not about this, and that thing has its own time, and so I'm just going to wait for that to come back up. You have to be disciplined in protecting and shifting your energy. So shift your thinking, shift your availability, your expectations, your focus, and your energy by theming days or half days. Stephen Covey once said, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. I love that so much. So here's what I want you to do this week. Just start with one of these strategies. Don't try to overhaul your entire time management system overnight. Just pick one of the 5 shifts that I mentioned that resonated with you the most. Maybe it's the energy zones, or maybe it's building in buffers, or the days, or shifting the things around. Maybe it's the do versus due dates. Maybe it's the no flyover zones. Maybe it's you really need to understand where your time and energy is going so that you can shift it accordingly. Maybe it's you need to reduce context switching and implement the future you note-taking methodology. And maybe you just need to start theming your days so that you can stay focused. But pick one and implement it this week. And if you want help implementing any of these strategies, any of these shifts, head on over to dustinpeed.com/free. You can grab free resources, including that do versus do worksheet, the time and energy audit template, the future you note-taking methodology. All of those will walk you through the exact process step by step. And furthermore, you can reach out to me, dp@dustinpeed.com. You can find me on social media at DustinPeed. That's DUSTINPEAD. Remember, you're not failing at time management because you lack discipline. You're struggling because you're using systems designed for corporate employees, not for creative professionals. So once you implement the systems that actually work for how creatives work, everything changes. So if this episode has helped you in any way, I would super appreciate it if you would share it with another creative who might be drowning in deadlines or struggling with their own time management. And connect with me once again on social media at DustinPeed. I'd love to hear which strategy, which shift that you are implementing first. So create with clarity, scale with systems, and protect your creative energy like the valuable resource it is. We'll talk to you next week on Creativity Made Easy.